A few months ago, Qiyi released the highly anticipated Volt V2M Square-1. The cube received a lot of praise and almost everyone switched their mains to this. So why have people given the Volt V2 so much praise? Let's find out. Before we get started, I want to say that I'm not the best Square-1 solver as I only average around 15 to 17 seconds on Square-1. The Volt V2 measures 54mm wide and 56mm tall, compared to the Yushin Little Magic's 55mm by 57mm. The smaller size of the Volt makes the cube much easier to handle and control. And while the size is very promising, the out-of-the-box experience wasn't really. While the cube did have a nice scratchy feel, and I really liked the black side on the cube, the performance was less than stellar, as the cube was lockier than my unmodded Yushin, and the UND layers were slow. However, I thought that maybe I just needed to set up the cube and it would be good. And I was right. After loosening the cube, well, a lot, and lubing the cube with weight 6 on the core and Speedcube Shop Candy Cube lube on the pieces, the cube was amazing. Now after breaking in the cube, it has a very soft and smooth feel. The UND layers are at a good speed, and while the slice layer is a little fast, it's definitely not uncontrollably fast. Also, the stronger magnets compared to the Yushin make it feel just as stable, even though it's at a looser tension. I can keep the cube at a looser tension as the lock nut prevents stripping in the core, which I've experienced with the Yushin when making it loose. Also, the looser tension allows the cube to have better corner cutting than the Little Magic. While solving on this cube, the fluid turning and decent corner cutting allowed me to go through the solves without completely locking up completely, which would happen on the Yushin quite often. And the catches / locking that would usually happen, it's most of the time it's due to my turning and not because of the cube. With all of these upsides, this Square-1 is perfect, right? Well, not really. First of all, in order to have good corner cutting on this cube, you have to loosen the cube quite a lot. And really, it's only passable. It's only good compared to the Yushin anyways. It would be much better if the regular and reverse corner cutting was better on this cube so that I could be more confident in spamming out, which is how you're supposed to do Square-1. Also, if you loosen the cube a lot, you might have to deal with misalignment issues. And if you don't, then you're gonna have to deal with catching issues. So pick your poison. This issue can be mitigated by turning more accurately on a moderate tension, but if you're like me and you don't have very accurate turning, then you're gonna have to either slow down your solves or keep grinding solves until your turning style changes. The second issue, however, is much more serious and is basically impossible to mitigate. The pieces can break. I've heard of many cases where the edge bases and even the corner bases can break. This is a big issue, as if a piece breaks, then you're gonna have to buy a new one, and the situation is gonna suck for you. This shows that the manufacturer may not care about the quality control of their cube. Maybe Qiyi does care, but you can't know for sure. Now that we've weighed the pros and cons of this cube, I will compare this to the Yushin Little Magic Square-1 and give my final thoughts on this cube. This comparison may be a little unfair, but I will try my best to give my points. For the specs, I would give it to the Volt V2. The smaller size lets me control the cube much better and makes the cube feel less clunky. For performance, I would definitely give it to the Volt V2. The speed is basically perfect for the turning, and even though a modded Yushin Little Magic has better corner cutting than a regular Volt V2, I feel like the Volt is still more stable, and I have felt modded Yushins before. For ease of setup, it depends on what kind of Square-1 solver you are. If you are not that serious of a solver, then I would give it to the Yushin, because the Volt did take some time for me to set up. But if you want to be serious about Square-1, then I would definitely give it to the Volt. This is because to make the Yushin good, you need to mod it. So you need to do the paper mod, you need to put more magnets, you need to put a lock nut or whatever, and you need to cut off parts of the pieces. Instead, you can lube and tension the Volt V2 and it will be ready for high level speed solving. For the price, it once again depends. For casual solvers and people with a huge budget crunch, then the Yushin is pretty good. But even though the unmodded Yushin is still a good cube for a cheaper price, you have to do the modding I mentioned earlier in order to get this cube to its full potential. The cost of the cube plus the mod costs more than the cost of the stock Volt V2, as you have to do much more labor to set it up versus the Volt V2. And that is a great positive for the Volt V2. You don't have to go through the modding process in order to make it really good. So should you buy the Volt V2 or go with cheaper options? I'd say definitely get the Volt V2, even if you are a casual solver. It is considered the best on the market, and while it's definitely not perfect, it's still an amazing option that will last for a long time. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please remember to like and subscribe for more cubing content. Bye!